Next week, we have a huge update that is on the way. So let's delve into everything that we know and make some theories towards what could be coming. Over on social media, we have gained a little sneak peek into what is going to be coming. They've put that there's been an incredible discovery and that we are going to be finding out about it next week. And then following on from this, they've said that the discovery is going to have huge implications for the lore behind the game. So what is it going to be? Well, unfortunately, we don't have any hints towards what it could be besides these little tweets that have been given out. But don't fear, everyone, as I do think we can work out a little bit towards what could be coming, even though apparently it's going to be quite hard to predict this one. So first of all, the first thing that I do believe that this could be is just something completely brand new with a new update and have a big impact on the lore and the game overall. If this is the case, it certainly explains the way that they're going about it. We've not had an update in a while, and I think this would make a ton of sense. But I don't really think that's actually going to be the case, as I do think it is most likely to end up being a seasonal event. For the seasonals, we've got 4 seasonals left as of right now that are going to be releasing over the next 3 months. It's been confirmed. So with 4 seasonals left, it looks very likely that it could be tied to a new seasonal event. Whatever is going to be going on here can easily have huge implications for the lore, like they're suggesting here, and have a grand impact towards the game. Right now, too, the next seasonal event is really uncertain. It seems as though we have 4 seasonals releasing over the next 3 months up until September, when anniversary month is. It's easily going to be the case that this is tied to a seasonal event. If they've got 4 seasonals to bring out, they've got to bring them out sometime, and therefore this is as good of a chance as any to bring one out. And with the next one being really uncertain, with there not really being a specific kind of day really notable inside of May besides Cinco de Mayo, it is a little hard to predict what is going to be coming, as Cinco de Mayo has passed and there's not really that many events left now that they could go into, and especially with it having huge implications for the lore and it being uncertain, they could easily go ahead and make one up on the spot right there, and they've actually hinted towards doing that in the past too, so that could easily be the case. We may also have a little hint towards what the next seasonal event might be, so let's take a listen.
An upcoming seasonal event. We've got another one coming that's, I think, one of our biggest tongue twister names ever. I expect that players won't have very long to wait to learn what we're talking about.
So the next seasonal event is going to have a complicated event name, and it would make a huge amount of sense if this is tied towards what they were on about too, if it's important to the lore, as that would make it quite a complicated name, I would presume. But what could it be then? If it's tied to the lore so heavily, let's have a think. Well, Space Day and Star Wars Day is the most likely event I do think that they'd tie back to inside of this month, and I think that they might link towards this with this upcoming seasonal event. If we go on back to the Magical Islands right now, we've got Claw the Vera, who's coming to Bone Island, and then we've got Fiddle coming to Fairy Island, and we got them in that order, so it's going on a sort of backwards circle right now, and seen as the Base Day is the most likely event also to follow suit to that trend that has been happening and is going backward in the cycle of the Magical Islands on the map menu, it would make a ton of sense if Psychic Island is actually going to be our next Magical Island that receives a seasonal event. Sort of similar to how the Natural Islands each have a seasonal event that happens in correspondence to one another, like Punkleton happens, then Yule, then Smoochel, then Blabbit, then Hula. It's a circle, isn't it? And it's got a pattern to it. So I do believe that's going to be the case for the Magical Islands. So I do think that we could be looking at Psychic Island getting a new seasonal this next week. But what lore theme thing could they tie towards this event though then? Because we've worked out that it's going to be tied towards Space Day, but there's apparently going to be huge lore implications. So we've got to question how this is all going to integrate together now. The first predicament that I see happening is them finally explaining where the magicals came from. Psychic Island was the first magical island, and it's still a huge mystery where the Titans and magicals came from. We've had a bit of a theory video on it. Go and watch it if you haven't watched it already, but it's still a huge mystery and definitely needs some explaining. Or secondly, the most likeliest option is that they could explain the disappearance of the Outer Islands. When Psychic Island first came along, the huge mark that this island left on me is the fact that the Outer Islands blipped out of existence. And with Space Day being very space themed and the Prism Gate being very space themed, you'd kind of assume that this would be a really nice link to make, especially with it being related to space and Psychic overall being so linked towards this moment inside of My Singing Monsters history. It would make a lot of sense if this could be a celebration of what was lost from the Outer Islands. Islands. Them integrating this seasonal as well to correspond towards the disappearance of the Outer Islands would be an amazing chance to get an explanation towards what happened to them possibly, but also besides that, they could have such a cool element to them. Imagine a space-like seasonal that encapsulates the Prism Gate. The Prism Gate is a realm that I really want to see explored a lot more inside of the lore. I feel like it has so much potential, and expanding on that with the seasonal would be such a cool idea. Just like how Vivine really surprised me with how it embraced all of the critters, I think it could be one of them cool moments yet again this seasonal, and just seeing Vivine do that, I feel like with this one they could go one step further and have this seasonal encapsulate not just a celebration overall like what the seasonal event may celebrate in regard to the disappearance of the Outer Islands and its possible link to the Prism Gate, what might have been involved in the process, but also embody the Prism Gate dimension itself and the Prism realm. It could easily be another day celebrating something else inside of the lore, but with the Magical Islands backward theory that we have, and also Space Day being as most trendiest day I do think that they'd probably go for over Cinco de Mayo inside of this month, I therefore find it the most likely situation. It's really hard to predict though, and I could see them doing absolutely anything. There's lots of different paths with this one. Another one which I have been thinking about is Fire Oasis and what they could do with that one if they decide to bring a seasonal along for Fire Oasis. If they brought one along for Fire Oasis, they could do a Cataclysm related event or something like that, but for Fire Oasis, I see a seasonal coming along a bit later on for that one. So I think we can leave that one off the hook for now and leave it to the side. I definitely think Psychic is our next one that is going to be getting a seasonal. Alongside our new seasonal, or whatever is going to be coming with this fancy lore shredding moment that we're going to be receiving on Wednesday, we also are absolutely, now I'm saying it absolutely this time, but last time it didn't happen, but I feel like this time we are going to be getting an epic fire elemental. It's going to be a triple element epic fire elemental as we've been over last time, as we've just had Ziggurat, Tring, and Epic Boskus, all of those epics. And following that circle where we cycle through all of the elements, it must therefore be a triple element monster up next. And I do think Epic Flugel is still our most likeliest candidate, seeing as though they were one of the first rare triple fire element monsters out there, and they're on Amber Island and everything. It makes a lot of sense to smack them on there, I say. But again, it's hard to predict that one too, and it's hard to predict what on earth they could be on about in the first place with the new update as well, what we're going to be getting on Wednesday. Definitely let me know what you think though down below inside of the comments about what we're going to be receiving. Make sure to leave a like too, guys, if you enjoyed, and to subscribe down below too though. I'll see you guys later though for now. Bye guys.